Hi, this is Shauna from the Foiled Fox, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. I'm going to be demonstrating this wonderful vase collection that Paper Tray Ink has. This is the second of the collection, so it's vase number 2, and it reminds me kind of as an Asian porcelain, and it's just got a really beautiful pattern to it. And then of course it has the matching die. And then I'm going to also be using something that you've seen before, Into the Blooms. This is Into the Blooms 2, and it has some wonderful flowers. I'm only going to be using the one type of flower and the leaves. And then I need some circle dies, and I love the Hero Arts Infinity circles. Then the paper I'm going to be using is a piece of shimmer antique gold. And then I have a 4 3/4 square of black cardstock, and then some white cardstock that I'll use for a few things. And then I have some Yupo paper. This is a plastic paper because I'm going to be using some alcohol inks, and plastic paper allows the ink to sit on top and not soak into the paper. But first we're going to set that aside, and we're going to work on the vase. I have a piece of white cardstock that I cut out the vase, and I have the positive and the negative part of it. But I have also cut it out of black, so that I could have a black negative piece that I could mount into my stamp positioner. This way you can see it better, and so can I. And I'm going to put the white face in there, and that will just be its holder for right now. I've mounted that wonderful Asian pattern of the stamp onto the door so that it matches up perfectly. And then I'm using Enchanted Evening, a wonderful blue, and I'm going to stamp this a few times just to make sure that I get a really good impression. This is a beautiful color, and it does remind me of that kind of Chinese porcelain. It's just really stunning. I'm going to take that out, and now I'm going to take a small blending brush in the same ink, the Enchanted Evening, and I'm going to go over the whole vase, but I am going to especially make it darker on the edges. This will give it some kind of a more dimension to the look of it, and a little bit more interest. So I'm just going to zip around the sides and make the top and the bottom especially a little bit darker. So that's all finished. You can see there's the detail on it. But I'm going to set that aside for now, and I'm going to work on some of my flowers. And so I have to create the paper. I'm using these alcohol inks, like I said, and some blending solution and a blower. I have the Yupo paper. Remember, it is the plastic paper. Now I'm doing 2 panels here. I actually did another project that you'll see on Paper Tray Ink, but where I used one of these panels, but I only used one, so I had one left over, so I thought I would do this project. But I needed to show you how I got that done, and I'm just adding some of that blending solution. You can use isopropyl alcohol as long as it's 90% or better. You can use that, or the blending solution that Ranger makes to go with these alcohol inks. I brought out a bunch of them, but in truth, I'm only using 4. I'm using Crimson, Wild Plum, Valencia Orange, and Dandelion. And I do always like to add a little bit of yellow or orange to the pinks. And the purple really adds some really nice dimension. Now, I don't have to worry about this making any particular pattern. I just want to put a lot of really pleasing ink. And I do want areas where it kind of pools, because I'll show you in a few minutes why I like those areas where that ink gets a little bit thicker, and it will stay a little tackier for a little while, and that will allow us to use the gold foil, and you'll see that in just a minute. But you can sit and play with this forever, because you can see when I added more alcohol how it lightens those areas, and the blower just kind of moves it around. It does, the alcohol or the blending solution does allow it to move around as well. And so I'm just going to add just a little bit more of this yellow and of course just a little bit more color here and there. But now that that's done, I'm going to set those aside to dry. But I do have some of this ink left over on my work surface, so I have put some of that blending solution on the work surface to loosen it up. And I've got another panel of Yupo. This one will be more pastel, but it really turned out really beautiful. So this is a way to use your leftover ink. And I don't like to waste it because it's too yummy. These colors are so vibrant and beautiful. And I love actually the little bit of a sheen that the Yupo paper gives you as well. Now this is medium weight. There is a heavy weight, but I think a medium weight works better for this. Now you see there's areas where this ink is pooled, where it's a little bit darker, and that's where the gold foil is going to stick. But right now I'm using very carefully, I'm using my heat tool and just drying it. Now you have to be very careful because this is a synthetic paper. It is plastic and it will melt. So you don't want to stay too long. Otherwise it'll warp or start to melt. Now I have some pieces of gold deco foil. You don't need very much. And I'm going to just start dabbing it. Even though I dried it, this area is where the ink is thicker, where it kind of pooled up. It will leave a little bit of the foil behind. So you get these wonderful glimmers of gold, which is what I'm searching for. Now, if I used a burnishing tool on this, I could, but it's a little harsh for it. I found that using my fingers a little bit better. The others will make a straight line, and I want this to be a little bit more natural and organic and follow the pools of ink. And this is all the areas where it's still a little bit sticky, because that's what's allowing this gold foil to adhere to the panel. Now that's done. I'm going to set that aside because it does need to dry a little bit more yet. And I'm going to do a small panel of green because I do want some leaves. So I put it on some alcohol or some blending solution, and I'm using meadow and pistachio here, just 2 colors of green. Using the blower again, you can see how that blending solution really allows that to move around, especially with the blower. And I'm going to just add in all of these 2 colors until I get to a color tone and kind of the interest that I'm looking for in this green. Now that that's done, that didn't take very long. I'm taking out the Into the Blooms. I'm only using the one type of flower and those leaves right there. And I think I'm going to arrange those leaves kind of right where I want it on that green. I'm going to do what Louis C. Tiffany used to do, is cut through a whole piece of glass, huge piece of glass, just to get one little piece because that's the one he liked. So I'm going to cut those out, but while I'm in the cutting mood, I'm going to cut out circles out of my panels here. So the black is a 4 3/4, and I'm using a 4-inch circle, and the shimmer antique gold has a 3 3/4 circle. And I've cut those out, and I'm going to mat them just like you would a picture frame. So I'm going to put some glue around this black one so that I could adhere the gold behind it. And because that has the smaller circle, you can have it peek through there, so it creates a really nice frame. And then I'm going to mount it onto a white card base that's slightly larger. It's about 5 inches square. But first I'm going to add, before I stick this down, I'm going to add a little bit of pink. I put the vase there just to get an idea where I want the pink to be behind my flowers. So I just want to, that just was giving me an idea where that's going to go. And I'm just check it every so often. And I start out light and then I get more intense. Now with some foam tape on the back of this kind of matting, I'm going to peel this off and mount it onto my card base. And then you can see I have all my flowers there that I cut out, and then that one leaf. So even though this is square, it, for some odd reason, one way looks a little better than the other, so I'm mounting that. Then I have some foam tape behind my my vase there, and I'm going to take these leaves and I'm going to cut them apart. They are perfect, and they're just the right amount to just one of these cut out creates a bunch of these leaves, and they're perfect for this. And then you can see the flower that I chose. I really like this flower. It does have three. You can layer it with the 3 layers, but I'm going to just layer the 2 layers and then use the little ones separately. And I'm just going to tuck them here and there. And because this kind of has an Asian feel to me, I'm doing an asymmetrical floral arrangement. I'm playing florist right now. I'm putting this floral arrangement together. And I'm just doing this to get an idea how I want it to go. And now that I do, I'm going to put the vase where it needs to, where I want to position it. Then I'm going to take those flowers off, and I'm going to now stick them all together. I'm going to layer these 2 together. I'm going to put a little bit of glue, and because this is plastic paper, the glue kind of slips around, but it does end up sticking quite nicely. So I'm just layering those 2 layers together. Look how interesting the flowers are when you do it out of alcohol ink. It just gives a really nice different, the intense color along with the light color. And I'm just layering these different flowers on top of one another, and then using these little ones for like little accent ones. I'm not going to use all the flowers, which is fine because I like to keep my flowers in, keep them all my flowers together that are left over. So I never know when I want a quick project, I can just go in there and see what flowers I have already made. So I'm just going to arrange these leaves together around in different areas, just like we had kind of planned. And sticking them directly onto that card base, the white card base. And I love how the pink is peeking through that we blended onto the white. It just kind of makes the flowers kind of glow there. And now with that all arranged, I'm going to use the sentiment. And I've decided to use Wish You Were Here. This is a Just Sentiment mini, and it has Bonjour, and I thought that would be really nice to have. So I stamped it using black VersaFine ink. I love doing that using that ink for sentiments because it is extremely fine and very black, so it gives you a very nice impression, usually perfect the first time. So I love how, especially paper tray ink, but a lot of other people use the make a die to cut out the sentiment so it cuts all the way around the word. This one didn't have it, so I decided just to use some detail scissors and do it myself, and then put some foam tape on the back. And I'm just going to press that right in place. I want this to be very, the sentiment to be quite demure. And now I'm going old school. I love these black stickles to put some centers on these flowers. It just gives a little extra pizzazz and a little extra dimension. So I'm just squeezing them on into the center. And so here we are, and it's all finished, and it just, to me, looks kind of like a painting. I love the blue, and then with those wonderful flowers and the colors that the alcohol ink really provide, and then that little glow of pink behind it on the white. It just really kind of makes that all come together. The black, I think, really sets it off too. Here you can take a closer look at those flowers. I really, really enjoy doing this project. I hope you did enjoy it too, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We would absolutely love that. And here I'm using Into the Blooms, as I mentioned. That's number 2, the Vase Collection number 2, the Stampin' Die, and the Hero Arts Infinity Circle, and then those papers and alcohol inks. But you can find all the supplies. The list is on our blog. There's a link down below. You can click there, as well as there's tons of more inspiration. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.